this thing. All right. Check it out. It only takes like 3 seconds to load. Okay. What is that from, Nate?
I personally, I can hardly hear anything on it.
He's got a good excuse, doesn't he, Brad?
Oh, he's not alone.
There's a Monty Python skit from The Holy Grail, and that skit is called The Annoying Peasant.
Okay.
So that's why I took that little chunk of music, obviously, and actually, our logo, the Annoying Peasant Radio Show, is the Knights of Nefont. I don't know if you ever watched.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so I was kind of a fan back in the day. Anyway.
What do you mean back in the day?
Well, believe it or not, I'm older than like 17. So, anyway, hey, this was our idle chit-chat. It was a whole minute. Should we actually start up the show?
I don't know, Tom.
I guess so, Hey, it's Tuesday, why not?
Or should we just cancel it and forget it and go outside? It's nice weather.
It is nice.
All right, here we go.
Let's hit it.
Funky beginning. I'm hoping that Warren is listening.
Fire it up!
Don't hang on to outdated imperialist dogma. Be free for the next episode of the Annoying Peasant Radio Show. And now, the Annoying Peasants.
That's my little tribute to Warren. I was hoping he was listening tonight, because that was an intro he did for us. Geez, that must have been about 2 years ago, something like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was kind of cool, and again, I hope Warren was listening.
Well, thanks for that. I hope, Warren, you're doing all right.
Yeah, no kidding, Warren. And I know he recently had a birthday, so happy birthday again.
That's cool. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Annoying Peasant Radio Show. My name is Brad, and I am joined by my very good friend Tom and our good new friend Nate tonight. And tonight's episode is entitled The Surveillance State. Ooh. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate that. Tom, would you like to introduce Nate?
Yes, I would. Nate's a soul, shall we say, that I met through the actually, was it Nate, right? Is it ultimately through the Green Anchor Group through Nick Ludwig?
Yeah, you could say that, or somewhere along the Liberty Lifeline, maybe.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's really deep.
Anyway, so we got hooked up, and Nate had interest in being on the show and doing a show, or we'll see how this goes and how excited he is about it. If he wants to keep going, that would be great. So we're looking forward to your insight and your commentary, your views on this whole topic. So it should be fun.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Oh, and see, already I got to say hello to Tanya in the chat. So do you guys know how to open the chat, right?
Let's see here.
Why don't you step Nate through it?
Geez, actually, because I think it's different on. There should be a little dialogue box on when you're. No, because you're not actually. How do you do it, Brad? Because you're not. Do you have the show on and then mute it? Is that how you do it, or no? Because then you wouldn't be able to hear me, right?
Right. Usually, it's a little bit too much for me, if I'm being honest with you.
Okay. So I don't really know because I'm doing it through the DJ console. Anyway, more than people wanted to know, I'm sure. Anyway, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We'll get through this. We always do, right? And then we take 90 minutes to do the show. Before we get going to the announcements and all the things that we usually do, and obviously our feature story for the night, I also like to try to lay out some commentary on the big picture on the show. I like to use the word I because I don't like to speak for anyone else, and I'm happy for people to chime in. But so I say I support a free society, one in which the initiation of force against an innocent, which I guess is a little redundant, initiation of force has to be against the innocent, is unjust. most immediately asked, but how would such a society work? And I just kind of think within this question is the notion, that the idea that a society that doesn't legalize the initiation of violence might not be able to work or might not function as well as the one that we currently have. So I think it avoids the moral question, how a society might function without the initiation of violence against an innocent. The answer, well, I would say obviously very much better than any society that legitimizes and systematically uses the initiation of violence. So, I guess I wind up asking people, hey, so what you're telling me is you think a society can only really work if we sprinkle it or add a little rape, theft, and murder in there. That's what actually makes a society work? Is that the contrary position? It just seems odd to have that question. And I'm constantly raised with, the next question, how would it work? And then the next one after, how would we transition to it? And I'm always like, well, wait a minute. We have to understand that this is the goal we want before we start thinking about these other things. And, of course, on our show, we actually mostly focus on that broader picture of, here's where we think we need to go. And I leave it up to others for the most part, how we're going to get there and all those other questions. And they're valid questions. I don't argue that. I'm just saying that's typically not our focus. But I support that a society performs best that includes no legalized coercion. A society that does use violence is one that does not use violence, is one that is at peace. And peace allows individuals to focus their attention on the production of goods and services that others want. In other words, you have a chance to become wealthy. Individuals instinctively know that the best way to improve one's life is to cooperate, to engage in voluntary exchange. Most readily understand that those individuals who engage in the initiation of violence is antisocial, deviant, and non-cooperative. I don't know what words you want to use, right? But most people can easily spot those people who are real criminals. And I'm using the air quotes on the criminals because I know I would differ on what criminal activity is with a lot of people. Anyway, why should the state be accorded a pass on that same activity, right? And I think that's where, I don't know, people who support freedom are seen as a bit maniacal. It's like, man, your philosophy, you don't give anyone a pass. No agencies, no groups, no associations of people, no individuals. Nobody gets a pass. And maybe that's one of the bigger differences between a freedom supporter and those who are, I don't know, broadly, I'll just call them statists. And people say, well, that's our system. I think that's one of the big arguments. And, my question is, so this guy, this gal won a popularity contest. So does that mean theft is no longer theft when an association of individuals do it? Or, even if they're elected, if they appoint some people, does that mean theft's not theft for them? Does that mean property rights don't matter? I think it's an important question for people to ask. So I'm trying to go through this quickly because I think we're going to be a little long tonight. But on tonight's episode, we are going to talk about the Patriot Act, spying, the NSA, drones, Edward Snowden. I'm sure I missed a few topics in there, but there's a lot of stuff. But the central point is that free people have an inherent right to property. Such property rights lend one's self to privacy. Many claim that invasions are warranted to keep us safe, and such invasions are acceptable largely on the basis that it is not, if one is not engaged in nefarious activities, you would have nothing to hide. We have done a show previously on privacy, but let me cut to a few pointed questions, and then we'll go get the show really started. In the event you support the idea that the innocent have nothing to hide and should therefore not have an expectation of privacy, do you close your bathroom door? Do you attempt to keep private your financial position? Do you attempt to keep private an entire set of activities like your bedroom door? Why so? If you're innocent, you have nothing to hide. Why would you want privacy, right? It's the same principle that they apply to these other things, but I argue inconsistently, most do. If you're not engaged in nefarious activities, you should have nothing to hide, right? So anyway, I hope you'll listen to the discussion. I think it's be quite interesting. Ask questions. I know Tanya's already in the chat. That's a great place to start. Facebook is another one, but Brad will get to all that here in a sec. I think that's all I have just to kind of hopefully set up the show tonight. So if you want to do the announcements, Brad, and
Sure.
get us going there.
I'd like to get any comment Nate would have about your opening comments.
Oh, boy.
On the spot, Nate. Here you go, dude.
Well, there's a lot of area covered there. You know, it's of course I agree with you on everything. I'm just thinking of what playing devil's advocate. You know, I think when you really talk to a lot of people who don't agree with us on the liberty position, you could say, the good number of them, after you talk to them, well, they'll admit that, yeah, okay, our system is one that's kind of based on, the initiation of force. It's based on theft. It involves a lot of unseemly things, but they simply can't imagine anything else or any other way of kind of organizing society. And they say, well, if we just work on these things, it won't be perfect, but it will be a lot better than if we didn't have, the government, or if we didn't have the state, and really, if we didn't have that initiation of force. But they almost look at it as being a necessary evil. So it's, as far as, trying to get someone to kind of agree with you logically or rationally on these points, I don't really think it's something that you could just level at them in one argument and kind of expect them to fall down and say, "Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right." It's something you kind of have to chip away at.
Yes.
Don't you think that most people would take offense even at the utterings of force and theft in our government?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Most of them say that no, it's not. Well, you agreed to live in this country. You agreed to live in this town and state and everything. You're basically agreeing to play by the rules, which is still just a crap argument. But yeah, that absolutely is going to be something that they'll bring up.
I just find it interesting at how frequently, basically, the moral argument fails. I'm not saying it actually fails. In people's minds, it fails.
Yeah, yep.
And that's why we discuss all these other issues and all this stuff to try to bring them around with examples or, in other ways. But I do agree with you. I've never sat down and talked to someone, basically first time, and it never starts this way. But if they say, hey, convince me that freedom is better than socialism, which, of course, they don't admit to socialism in the first place, that's what we have. But there's nothing like I say a couple sentences ago, darn it, you're right. Game over. Okay, what else should we talk about? Sports? It just doesn't work that way. And I would argue it didn't work that way for me. My transition took about a year, maybe. I don't know. I was reading books and stuff. So,
yep.
So that's just the nature of thing. I mean, in a sense, it's good. It's because it to some degree they've at least really bought into the philosophy that they've either created or adopted. Which there's some good to that. That hey, I really believe what I think I believe. On the other hand, you happen to believe in the injustice. I would argue. So
yeah,
you kind of sunk your teeth into the wrong thing. But I guess that's the argument there. But anyway, interesting nonetheless how discussions go.
So my 2 cents worth, and then we'll go on to announcements. Is we do spend a lot of time trying to work on examples with the show to bring things in light to show that maybe the concept of force and theft may not be too far off, and hopefully invite people to, I think, consider that there might be an alternative, when I don't think that is something that anybody is raised to even consider in our country. Indoctrination, as Tom calls it. And so, again, as always, we hope we make you think. We hope that you'll give us a chance, and we appreciate you listening.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
All right, announcements. All right, so I think I've been mispronouncing it. It's Agorafest or Agrofest?
You say it any way you want.
I believe it's Agorafest. At least that's what I've been told, and I do what I'm told. So.
All right.
Yes, that a boy, Nate.
Yeah. Way to blow the whole show, Nate.
Yeah.
Agorafest 2015 is at the Villa Marie Maria Conference Center and Retreat, September 24th to 27th. More details to come. We say this every week, but it's a really cool time, and we hope that you will save the date.
By the way, I talked to Nick on Sunday. We're going to have him on like in a week or two.
Oh, cool.
So
that'd be great. Get ready to make your brain explode.
There you go.
Okay, now where is the Villa Maria Conference Center?
It is just south of the cities, right, Tom?
Yeah, right off the Mississippi River. Geez, I can't think of the nearest town there, but yeah, it's 45 minutes south. Actually, would be east of the Twin Cities.
Okay.
Exactly.
Nick will tell us all that stuff. That's
All
why
right.
we're bringing in the big guns to do this.
All right.
That's right. So some suggested viewing, watch Justice. What's the right thing to do? Episode 7A, a lesson in lying. I'm sorry. Episode 7, a lesson in lying from Harvard Business School by Michael Sandel.
Yep.
Okay. Is that posted on the Facebook page, Tom?
Yes, it is.
Splendid. We also encourage you to watch Citizen 4. We were going to use that tonight, and I'm not sure we're going to get to it, but we probably will on a future show. Very interesting viewing. Is that something you guys have both seen?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Next, Economics in One Lesson by Henry Hazlitt.
Yep.
Full text available online for free at fee.org.
Yeah.
Did I say that right?
Yes.
Our next live show will be next Tuesday evening, April 21st at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. The planned topic is free market environmentalism. Now, you're going to just tick me off, Tom, because I'm just kidding. It should be very enlightening. And that was one of my breakthrough moments for me with regards to freedom and liberty. As Tom already said, the chat room is open.
Okay, wait. Let me break in quick.
Go.
Trigger says it's Rochester. That's the city I couldn't think of.
Okay, there it is.
Trigger just texted, so it's Rochester. So not too far from Rochester, Minnesota. All right.
And, of course, we're going to re-welcome Nate to the show, and we're very, very glad that you joined us. And I'm probably the most glad because it allows me to, I think, keep the dialogue going with you guys, or certainly I try to, and I love having a second opinion, love Tom, but it's always great to add a little spice to things with a second voice. So thank you again for joining us.
Well, thank you again for thanking me again.
Gosh, aren't we nice? So let's just stop. So the quote of the day is from Thomas Sowell, FreedomWorks, via Ginny Howell on Facebook. And the quote is, I have never understood why it is greed to want to keep the money you have earned, but not greed to want to take somebody else's money. There's that thief and force thing again.
Yeah. Wealth redistribution. Thomas Sowell has such a way of coming up with, saying things so succinctly, and that's what I always appreciate about him. And this fellow, by the way, Ginny Howell, he's from over the pond. Oh God, he's funny on Facebook. Anyway, he's got a lot of crazy posts. So he posted that one, so I had to use that tonight. So I thought that was funny.
So here's the professional broadcaster tease that we know that we all are. Is we're talking about greed and I guess the hypocrisy of the governance of our state. Let's think about murder and think about lots of other bad things when we get to the surveillance and some of the rest of our feature stories.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I guess let's do that. You want me to do the feature story tease? This one, I thought you guys might like this one. I'm here to entertain, actually, is my job. So I want to say the surveillance state thought it was only women. From the USA Today story, TSA employees fired for manipulating scanners so they could grope hot male passengers. Did you guys hear about this one?
Sweet, no.
No.
Yeah, check it out. Two TSA screeners at Denver International Airport were fired for manipulating the passenger screening system to allow one male screener to full-on grope attractive male passengers in their, shall we say, genital areas.
I think you just did.
Yeah. and check it out. Wait. Apparently, on the story, the deal was I think it was originally reported November of 2014, and it took at least 3 months for the TSA management administration to take any action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Much to his liking.
Yes, exactly. Don't know why it didn't take 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a USA Today, and I've got the link here, so I'll put it up on the Facebook page. But it does kind of fold into TSA and NSA and the whole surveillance state. So I just thought that would be a good one to put in there. I don't know if you want me to keep going with these, Brad. I got my equal opportunity basher one. I personally like that one too. But
why don't you go on, Tom?
Okay, I have, I don't know, a number of friends / acquaintances. I don't even know what the difference actually is. But anyway, they always tell me that since I'm in Wisconsin, everybody tells me that Scott Walker's the guy, to straighten out the financial mess. He's a no-nonsense kind of guy. Well, and obviously I've never been sold on the whole deal because the trouble, I would argue, Scott Walker is a problem. He's not the problem. The system is the problem. Anyway, so just not to burst you guys' bubbles, which I know the ardent supporters, nothing will burst their bubbles. It doesn't really matter. But I also wanted to, I'm going to be a little hard on Obama here, shockingly. So I just wanted to let everybody know that I'm no fan of Scott Walker's either. So don't come in, oh, you're a big, conservative Republican. No, I'm not. But check this out. So everybody thinks that, Scott Walker is the presidential hopeful that's going to finally end the financial shenanigans in D.C., because he's going to be our next president, just no doubt about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. News comes of his backing of the new Milwaukee Bucks basketball stadium to the tune of $220 million. And, his backing is actually not his backing. It's the people who live in the state of Wisconsin's backing. He just says yes or no. That's so big of these guys. They actually don't give a stinking penny. They just, as somebody else's money.
And hey, $220 million, that's nothing. I mean, we're paying for I think it's a $900 million Viking stadium.
Yeah, 220 chump change in Wisconsin,
yeah,
right?
That's nothing. You can let that go.
Yeah, I don't know what we're all fired up about. But the stadium subsidy, which Walker labels "pay your way," relies on an accounting gimmick. This is from the article. He says, pretending to earmark the future tax payments of NBA players to cover the costs of the tax-free bonds to finance the stadium. Right? So you see what his gimmick, he said, hey, the players in the years out, we're going to use their tax money, their state tax from their income tax, and we'll use that to pay back the $220 million, basically. Right? And another Wisconsin rep, what's his name, Chris Kapenga, he says the governor's proposal would divert those increased tax dollars, right, the money from those players in the out years, which are included in future revenue projections. In other words, they already had them figured in the budget elsewhere. So now Walker says, no, we're going to put them over here in this pot, so it costs you nothing. Well, obviously it takes money out of the other part of the pot, or the big pot to the little pot. I don't know. So to the owners of the Bucks, so it puts it to the owners of the Bucks to help fund the Milwaukee arena. Nor is there any reason to presume that government outlays will not soar in the following years. As the Manhattan Institute's Stephen Malenga warns about stadium subsidies, if you build it for them, they will fleece you. And that article was actually written by James Bovard. He's another guy I read quite frequently whenever I can. But he says stadium socialism is crony capitalism at its worst. A Bloomberg News analysis concluded that subsidies for sports structures have cost taxpayers $4 billion in recent decades. Professional sports team owners tend to be among the richest 1% of the richest 1%. And again, I'll put that link up there. But this is another one of those deals where, there's so much I don't get, I guess. But people want to back this. When it comes to their sports team, I guess they really don't. This guy said to me, well, geez, it's only another $5 a month or year or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, you could say that about everything.
Yeah. Yep.
So why would we not spend, infinite amount of money? Because it only adds another 4 cents.
Well, what's so odd to me about this whole thing is hearing someone like Scott Walker, who's, supposedly Mr. Fiscal Conservative, he's a, Republican. And like you said, he's a no-nonsense kind of guy. Well, here he is talking about taxing the, basically the earnings of NBA players.
Right.
Surely he understands that increased taxes creates a disincentive for people to work. He's basically setting the Bucks up to fail. I mean, who the heck are they going to get to come and play there now? They're not going to be able to get quality players because any quality player is going to be paid a lot of money, and they're going to have a lot of money taken from them.
Absolutely. Has he ever heard of Dwight Howard?
Yeah.
Right? That was this deal. He signed with Houston in part because there was no state income tax.
Yep. And some people say that LeBron James might have left Cleveland originally because of the state's income taxes.
Yes, that's right. Florida, no state income tax. Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't, I guess people also assume that, well, hey, they make so much money, they don't care, or it doesn't matter. I don't know how they rationalize this stuff. I mean, I've heard all kinds of crazy explanations.
Yeah.
But, 1% to a guy making $10 million a year is a whole lot more in real dollars than 1% to me.
That's,
guy's probably going, that's 3 Ferraris. Wow.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I guess I won't get that. I guess I won't get those 3 Ferraris this month. I'll just wait until the next one.
Right.
But isn't it how funny that we're all indoctrinated to go, well, this is for the sake of the state. This is best for our citizens. This is best for our state or our city's economy, because with the loss of such a team, this would happen. All these bad things could happen.
Yeah, it's the Bastiat, what is seen and what is unseen. When you spend the money, you see the stadium, you see the crowds, in football every Sunday afternoon or evening, right? But you don't see is what was not done, what was not invested in, what was not saved, because it's not there, because it was taken from them.
Yep, absolutely.
And that's, I think Mises was one who said, that's one of the most difficult things for people to think about, because it's the seen versus the unseen. Hey, seen, I can, what was the broken window fallacy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Puts the glazer to work to fix the window. See, isn't that good for the economy? And of course, me being the extremist that I am, I'm like, okay, so it's the same deal with Katrina, right? When New Orleans goes underwater, all those construction workers had to go to work, and they got good paying jobs. Well, I say we just mow the whole country over. We'll be rich beyond our dreams.
Yeah, I mean, hey, look at what happened. World War I and II. Those were huge boosts to those economies.
Yeah, that's what all these. Well, I shouldn't say all. A huge majority of people say that, and I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Tearing the cities down makes us rich. Okay, I guess I don't know what rich is.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, they only see the construction workers after the fact. They don't realize that they could have had those homes and their businesses and those buildings standing there and additional stuff if they would have spent that money on suits. I don't know.
So why wouldn't we just keep bulldozing everything?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because we do know somewhere in there that we get poorer when we wreck our shit. Right? Anyway.
Not everyone knows that.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll put that link to that article up there, and all you Scott Walker fans can tell me that I don't know what I'm talking about. But, oh well. It's happened before. What do you want? Want to move on to Rand Paul? We should talk about
this. Big surprise, Rand Paul has announced he's running for president. And I'd be curious to hear from you guys. It's not going to be very exciting, but I'm going to ask anyway. What does this mean to the freedom philosophy? Anything? Is it a pulpit for freedom or a mouthpiece for the state?
What do you think, Nate?
I'm going to, I guess, lean towards the mouthpiece for the state thing. I personally think once someone gets to that level, the level of the Rand Pauls, the Ted Cruzes, the Marco Rubios, and so on and so forth, it's like they're just getting sucked into the Leviathan. They're not gonna, they're gonna throw a few bones here and there to the liberty side of things, but they're gonna cut towards the middle. And really, what they're gonna do is they're gonna, basically start acknowledging, or at least trying to sell people on the necessity of the state, and instead of pushing for the enhancement of liberty, it's something. I mean, even when Ron Paul was running, and people were saying, "Oh, what if he were to actually get the nomination?" And I was thinking, if you get the nomination, I don't know if I can trust you anymore.
That's right.
Because at that point, you're you've kissed the right rings, you've bowed to the right people to get to that position. And I don't trust Rand Paul right now. I've already heard him flip flopping on a ton of things.
Right.
That really I'm just like, yep, I knew it was going to happen, but I don't know. I guess there's still a lot of libertarians and enough, you could say kind of old conservatives that think that he's going to save us and everything. But yeah, I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I don't think the way to change the mafia is to get into the mafia.
Yeah.
Right? That's just my view. And I could be totally wrong. Maybe that is going to be the way that'll work. Who would I can't know the future, so I wouldn't know. But I mean, that's just where I am. I'm like, maybe it could happen, but I think that's a long shot. I think you'd have to have a different organization, and you attract those members that were formerly of the mafia that come over your way and go, hey, things work better over here for me, so I'm with you guys. Because, again, I think a lot of people aren't philosophical. They don't think of the bigger issue. They don't really care. They just, hey, if my life gets better, if I'm over here, okay. And that was one of Jacob Hubert when he was on this show. He kind of did the Leonard Reed saying, hey, basically you have to lead by example. You just do your thing, and that will naturally attract people to you. And I'm totally with you, Nate. I think, and again, this is foretelling the future, which, geez, if you know my history on financial investing, you should not listen to me. But, I would guess if he gets a bigger mouthpiece, right, if he gets to move along a little in the process, he'll throw an occasional bone to the freedom advocate. But I don't really see that as the overall thing. Again, I would describe it as an occasional bone. But like you say, he had to have kissed enough rings. You have to be part of the system for the system to nominate you.
Yeah.
I find it hard to believe going, okay, the guys who run the party say, okay, this guy here, he's declaring he's going to tear us apart. I say we make him our man. Right? It just doesn't seem to fit to me, but anyway. I don't know. How about, next one we had Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz on there. Any excitement there, you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Those guys. Whew, I'm a big Rubio guy.
Hey.
He talks about freedom.
Yeah, I know. You have to admit, sometimes even their rhetoric is actually good. Sometimes it's that downright bad, but sometimes it's actually good. But knowing, the context in their history, they don't mean what they're saying. They're just saying it because it sounds good and it makes them more electable.
Yeah. Yep.
But at least the rhetoric on sometimes it sounds good. Again, I wrote underneath there because I reminded of the Who. I don't know. Nate might be too young for this.
I know the Who.
The Won't Get Fooled Again tune.
Yeah,
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Nate's pretty much there with me. It's like, hey, it doesn't matter what the guy's name is. He has to go through that process and become part of the system. And again, maybe a bone or two, but that's it. So anyway, but the big news, Brad, I'll let you do this one. The biggest news of our lifetimes, probably.
Well, and the biggest shock.
Yes.
I mean, who saw this coming? I sure didn't. Yep. Our girl Hillary has announced in a very low-key manner, which I thought was even kind of more entertaining. And yes, we are equal opportunity bashers of the blue and the red teams.
Yes.
And all the talk in the media about her delivery, and that it should be good with over 200 handlers reportedly. I mean, this is the worst secret ever, and millions in her campaign coffers. And not a single comment. I even saw her. She was on the news yesterday because, oh my gosh, she's one of us. She went in and had a burrito bowl almost with the rest of us at Chipotle yesterday.
Wow. She's
Hillary who?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I can't Brad, nobody would know who this person is. You got to let this out.
What is her last name? I can't remember.
Neither can I.
So your comment below that says, if you want to infuriate a fan of Hillary Clinton, calmly say, I can't support her because I don't support more war, Wall Street bonus bailouts, the NSA, TSA, the drug war, asset forfeiture, for-profit prisons, drone bombings, domestic spying, military police, militarized police, and torture, and I won't support those policies no matter how they are packaged or marketed to me. That is really negative.
I know, but I think it just lends to what we actually just talked about before, right? And not that Hillary wouldn't have been there. I mean, she was arguably one of the bosses of the party to begin with. But, right, she still would have to, even if she was, I think a lot of people try to view her as a bit of an outsider. She's, I don't know, her own woman. I don't know how to describe her. But, yeah, it's like, you got to be kidding me. And I think people just deny that whole system exists. And I'm like, I don't know where you're from. But
yeah, I guess what I get so just annoyed by is the ritual of this whole process, and how it is seemingly by a lot of people. They go, "Oh my gosh!" You'll hear people can kind of complain and like, "Oh gosh, no, not another presidential campaign. I can't handle it all." But yet it's so heralded. People get so caught up in it.
Uh-huh. What's really strange is when when you hear people talk about the approval rating of Congress, and so many people are saying, "Oh, we just need to throw out all the incumbents and get new people in there." Yet it's something like 85 to 90% of incumbents get reelected. It's this society's just goofy sometimes.
Yeah, it's truly a popularity contest. And if I've seen that name before, I'll put my check mark by that one.
Yeah, or it's if you don't vote for this guy or that lady or whoever, if you don't reelect me, you know what that means. They're going to come in. They're going to drown puppies. They're going to, euthanize all the elderly and pour sugar in your gas tanks. And it's just, they'll threaten you. They'll threaten you back into compliance and voting for them in no time.
No doubt.
Okay, so let's set this up properly. This is a cliffhanger. I mean, what's going to happen? Who's going to be nominated for what party?
Oh, God.
You guys on the edge of your seats?
Hey, see what he's going to do? He's making us do a prediction way early on, right? But
oh, gosh.
But I'm not scared. I'll make a bold prediction. Some statist is going to be in charge of the state. What do you think of that?
And you want to make another prediction that, let's see, is Tom going to vote or not? Let's see.
Hey, Obama put that thing forward that he's contemplating proposal to make voting mandatory. So that's how I know you're not supposed to vote.
You might have to vote or go to the big house.
Yes, exactly.
Ouch.
It's coming. All right, let's move on to your one of your stories. I know that this is right up your alley, Brad.
I can say this because this is my home state. Gosh, I've never been so proud of it in my life. But my fine home state of Indiana, as if they haven't done enough for the world lately with all in the news and everything. What is it? The RF, Religious Freedom Act.
Yeah.
So now, geniuses that they are, have said, "Oh, gee, I wonder if this hurt our reputation. Maybe we should try to clean up our reputation and put together a campaign." So they've hired a PR firm, and I guess they're going to spend approximately $2 million to do whatever's needed to clean up and to try to convince everybody, hey, we're not so bad.
Yeah, it's $2 million plus the ad buys. That $2 million is, I guess, to formulate the plan and all this whatever. I don't know all what you do. My older son is cringing right now because the old man doesn't know what PR really is. But it's the $2 million whatever you get in a PR firm plus whatever the ad buys are. So I'm saying it's going to be well over $2 million. But what do I know?
Oh yeah. Whatever they end up spending, you can almost take it and quadruple it maybe.
Right.
In most cases. And how ironic is that they push for a bill, they pass it, it's signed into law, and now we got to spend a bunch more money to clean up our image for passing said bill. I mean, it's just nutty.
Okay, so let's say sweet deal for the PR firm, cha-ching.
Yeah.
Racking it up. I mean, it's going to take a genius to figure this stuff out. But I mean, is this not the adding insult to injury? I guess is the point of bringing it forward. Is You got the guys that are controlling the state, spending all the state's money, messing up the reputation or whatever there is, the image of the state, by their actions, and then they take all this money and say, well, we're going to clean it up. We're going to use taxpayer money and clean all this stuff up.
You know, what's the connection of the PR firm to the muckety mucks at the state? You know, that I know there may be no real good other than this business transaction.
Oh, Tom, there couldn't possibly be.
Yeah, right?
That's never happened, right?
And since this was done in short order because it's an emergency in the state of Indiana, it probably didn't have to go to bid or anything. They just hired some guys, right? So they just hired, quite possibly the best firm. There'd be no relationship between the muckety mucks and the PR firm and the muckety mucks in the state.
I'm sure that it was a fully transparent transaction. Seriously.
Yeah. So, and again, the big difference to me here is, and again, I'm not an advocate for the system we call the state in the first place. Actually, I'm an advocate for the reverse or the opposite. I don't know how you want to describe it. But here's the deal. So the state screws up, basically, or at least they think they screwed up. That's why they're hiring this PR firm, right? But who ultimately pays the penalty for this? It's the taxpayers of the state of Indiana. They go, oh, shoot, we got to take more money from you because we got to now pay the PR firm, and we got to, buy ad time, et cetera. And what I'm saying is if these things were done within the marketplace, if a firm did this, if it was a, now I can't even think of the word, when we were talking about before, Brad, and I can't remember, a private law agency. God darn it, I can't. Whatever. Sorry, it's missed me for. It'll come back to me later in the show when we're talking about Snowden, and I'll say the word.
Yep, that's usually how it works.
Yeah, but right they would pay the penalty for this if they made this error. Their costs would be higher because they now have to hire a PR firm. They might go bankrupt. The point is they might go away if you make mistakes, right? But the state doesn't go away. It's actually better for them to make mistakes because then they get more money. They come back to the taxpayers and say, we even need more, right? It's Tanya will love this. This is just for you, Tanya. Perverse incentives. She loves that when I say that. So anyway, that's my 2 cents worth on that. I don't know if you guys had anything else or if we should move on.
Nate,
I got nothing for you. I was unaware of that story, and it just kind of is mind-boggling to me.
Yeah,
but
same old.
Nate. I'm disappointed you don't follow my home states every moment, every breath.
Hey, Nate, just so you know, nobody follows Indiana better than Brad. So
okay.
No.
Yeah.
Well, the Final Four is over, so there's no reason to really follow it, right? I mean,
only when I'm totally embarrassed by them. And I did hear, I forgot to mention this to you, but one of the news stories I heard today was about the, Tom, this is just for you, the new fighter jet.
Yes.
How much over budget it is, trillions, because all the sides of, all the arms of the Navy, Army, whatever, this is a universal fighter, but they all wanted their own flavor, so overrun after overrun after overrun. Big surprise.
There you go. Hey.
And it's still not flying.
Yes.
Shocking.
It's come to me here. See, you talk about fighter, DRO, Dispute Resolution Organization. I was looking in the chat room. I thought, because usually Nick, when I have a brain fart, he's got it, and he gives it to me. But I beat him to it. Anyway, DRO, Dispute Resolution Organization.
What is that, Tom?
Basically, I don't want to go there too far tonight because we got other stuff to do, but private law. Let's just leave it at that. I know it's pretty vague, but a private law organization. I know people already who don't listen to the show are hearing this are flipping out. What is he talking about?
They don't know what we're talking about anyway.
Yeah, no kidding.
So let's remind everybody, since we don't know what we're talking about and they don't know what we're talking about. This is the Annoying Peasant Radio Show. Thank you again for joining us. This is Brad. I'm joined with by Nate and Tom.
Howdy.
Cool.
And I think it's time to do it.
Feature
story.
All right, surveillance state. We got on this because Brad found this thing from John Oliver. But before we do that John Oliver interview of Edward Snowden. And Well, I'm not going to say. I'm going to go to this clip. I'm going to do a clip from. It's Judy Woodruff from a PBS broadcast, because hopefully in this clip, if I got this right, it kind of gives you kind of the lowdown on the Snowden story. So I'm actually not going to give you the lowdown. We'll let the clip do it. So this is like, what is it? A minute. So here's a minute clip from Judy Woodruff on PBS. So setting up the Snowden deal. Here we go.
My name is Edward Snowden. I go by Ed. Edward Joseph Snowden's the full name.
The documentary Citizen 4 brings us into a Hong Kong hotel room as former National Security Agency contractor Edward Snowden reveals secrets that would make for blockbuster headlines beginning in June 2013. The large-scale collection of phone and internet data by the U.S. government.
Even if you're not doing anything wrong, you're being watched and recorded. And
news organizations would publish stories of a massive database, assembled since 2006 under the Patriot Act, collecting call data from millions of phone company customers and tapping into the central servers of major internet companies. For some, Snowden was a free speech hero. In the film, he explains his decision to eventually make his identity known.
These are public issues. These are not my issues. These are everybody's issues. And I'm not afraid of you. You're not going to bully me into silence like you've done to everybody else. And if nobody else is going to do it, I will. And
okay. I think the point there is, you are not getting the audio clips, Nate, I take it, huh? Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Brad,
sorry.
Brad, are you getting them?
I'm not.
Haha. I guess I can't share them with you guys then.
Well, certainly I've seen it. So
yeah, so the setup, here is basically Snowden saying, here's the deal. We should all be interested in this because we're all being spied on. That's basically what he had to say there. Mm-hmm. And of course, he says, I'm not afraid of you. If I'm going to reveal this stuff and make sure everybody knows what's going on. So he's basically saying there is a surveillance state no matter what the state tells you. So, anyway, that's too bad you guys can't hear this. It's really going to put a crimp on our discussion here. All right, so in this one, it's Obama commenting that basically he's going to say, hey, if Snowden believes he's right in this matter, why didn't he just come back and tell his story in front of a trial? Right? And this one's going to be, again, for you guys, bummer, about 30 seconds. So here we go.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. So the fact is that Mr. Snowden's been charged with 3 felonies. If, in fact, he believes that what he did was right, then, like every American citizen, he can come here, appear before the court with a lawyer, and make his case.
Beginning with encrypted emails and then in Hong Kong, Snowden met with and told his story to journalist Glenn Greenwald, then with the Guardian newspaper, and filmmaker Laura Poitras, the director of the Oscar-nominated documentary.
Okay, so the deal is, again, for you guys who missed it, it's Obama saying, hey, he could just come back here in front of an impartial court and tell his story, and he'll be all fine if he believes he's actually right. And then they went further on to say that he handed over all the information to Glenn Greenwald. I think he's still at the Guardian. I think he was at the time, and I believe he still is at the Guardian. And I don't know if he handed over data to more journalists than just Greenwald or what there, but but basically information is in the hands of journalists at this point in time, and they're going through it and disseminating it, and I don't know, making it public as they see fit. I assume is
probably watching their backs too.
Yeah,
looking over their shoulders quite a bit.
Well, I think her name, the gal who made the movie, her last name is like Poitras or something.
Yeah, yep.
And she said, I think at least for 6 years, she would get off a plane, and as people are getting off the plane, there would be, I guess, TSA. I can't remember exactly what, but there'd be a government official standing there checking them all, and they would be yanking her aside and, where have you been? What were you doing? All this stuff. She says this went on for, I think, if I remember, she said 6 years at least.
Oh, I'll bet. Easily.
Yeah, and I know Greenwald said every time he went through and he'd have cameras and, I don't know, his computer, anything that he could record stuff, they went through everything every time. So he's very careful on what he actually carried with him physically. So the point is these people are doing this at great risk to themselves. Mm-hmm. And sure, I hope, the detractors are going to say, well, they're making money. And I don't understand why they shouldn't. They're journalists. I'm basically saying this is their job. So why they shouldn't be making money. But, a lot of people make money and they're really not at risk of being thrown in the clink and tortured or whatever could happen to them, at least just harassed. So, they're making money and getting harassed and the possibility of greater harassment, of course.
Yeah, yep.
So I think it's kind of an amazing story here. And it's interesting how some people see him as, I don't know, maybe, I don't know, patriot's not the right word, a supporter of freedom, and others see him as a traitor. He should be tried for treason. Obviously people see it one way or the other. And I try to look at it through the lens of freedom as is what he doing consistent with property rights, with the non-aggression axiom, right? Is he violating anybody's property right? Is he exposing injustice? To me, all those things are good things. Other people want to obviously just preserve the system as it is. I think wrongly think they benefit from the system. That's why, and others directly do benefit from the system. So of course they have the incentive to keep it going.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting to see that how people come at it from different angles. And again, I try to look at it through that lens of property rights and the non-aggression axiom and more. But so now I'm going to move on, and I'm just really bummed that you guys can't hear that. John, you tell me if I got this right, Brad. John Oliver, I guess I call him a political satirist.
Yep, he filled in for my hero Jon Stewart on The Daily Show. I'm sorry, John Daly on The Daily Show. When he was out doing his movie the movie in Iran or Iraq, I just find him to be refreshing. Both of them seem to not care what anybody thinks and are pretty equal opportunity as far as the directions that they comment on.
Okay. See, now I'm bummed again. Here. All right. So this is the beginning of John Oliver's. He's on, just so people know, he's on Comedy Central. Is that right?
He was on Comedy Central, and now he has his own show on HBO.
Oh, see, I don't have this scoop. Brad knows. Anyway, I think why he did this was because the Patriot Act is up for reauthorization on June 1st, I think.
That was entirely his point. I think he was making fun of the impending date and alluding that impending date, the important date is, I think, April 15th or something, when in reality, I think he's saying nobody's going to know this as an impending date, but it comes up June 1st. The Patriot Act comes up for reauthorization or renewal or what have you, June 1st.
Okay, and I'm going to do a number of cuts, and I probably won't do all of them that I got listed here, but I just wanted to warn anybody, if you have little ones with you, the last few cuts get kind of racy, so if you don't want your little ones to hear them, you should have plenty of forewarning here. It's going to be a while before we get to them, but just so you know, I'll see if I can remember. Anyway, okay, so here's John Oliver setting this up. Here we go. And again, you guys can't hear this. Here we go. 30 seconds.
It is vital that we have a discussion about this now because an important date is just around the corner.
One big date to circle on the calendar when it comes to a very controversial subject, the reauthorization of the Patriot Act and all of the controversial provisions therein. June 1st, they've got to come to an agreement to reauthorize or curtail those programs.
Yes, some controversial provisions within the Patriot Act are set to expire on June the 1st. So circle that date on your calendars.
Okay, so I guess I prefaced that one pretty good. That's what he basically talked about is Patriot Act. June 1st is the day. And, he basically said it's a complicated issue. And I guess I'm not sure if I would argue it is, in fact, a complicated issue. I mean, it's fairly complicated, but it's not that hard. I look at it this way. If I can kind of understand what's going on, I think anybody should be able to. Mm-hmm. This next clip that lasts about a minute, he's talking about a part of the Patriot Act called Section 215. And basically what he's going to do is basically say, hey, there's open language here. In other words, you can interpret this any way you want. And then, for me, I look at it as, well, of course, that's the way they wrote it on purpose. I think, again, any supporter will say, oh, no, they tried to do the best they could, but you can't close all the loopholes. And again, it's a question of perspective. But, doesn't the state want the ability to do anything it wants to do? Right? And if you get it written on a piece of paper, that gives them all the backing they need. That's all they got to do is have it written down somewhere in one of their acts, right? Or whatever. I don't even know all the different legislative strategies or tactics they have. As long as they got something to point to, the cops, the NSA guys say, hey, it's right there. That gives them a green light. So that's what they're after. So here we go. This one's about a minute, and it basically he's critiquing how it's such open language. Here we go.
Over some of this. And let's start by focusing on the most controversial portion of the Patriot Act that is up for renewal, Section 215, which I'm aware sounds like the name of an Eastern European boy band. We are Section 215, prepared to have your hearts throbbed. There's the cute one, the bad boy, the one who strangled a potato farmer, and the one without an iron deficiency. They're incredible. But the contents of the real Section 215 is actually even more sinister.
It's called Section 215, nicknamed the Library Records Provision, which allows the government to require businesses to hand over records of any, quote, any tangible things, including books, records, papers, documents, and other items.
If that sounds broad, it's because it was very much written that way. Section 215 says the government can ask for any tangible things, so long as it's for an investigation to protect against international terrorism, which is basically a blank check. It's like letting a teenager borrow the car on the strict condition that they only use it for car-related activity.
Yeah, so again, he commented on this that basically it authorizes the government to essentially do anything they want. As long as they say, hey, we think we could be in pursuit of a terrorist or a terrorist activity, we can collect anything we want, any tangible thing, I guess is the word they used or the phrase they used. And
that
again,
sounds reasonable.
Yeah, no kidding. And here's actually that's a great comment. Because the next thing I'm moving on to is this, the FISA court, right? People say, well, you make my detractors again will say, Tom, but, hey, it's not like there's no oversight here. There's oversight, so these guys just can't do whatever they want. They got to get through this FISA court, right? And here we go. I want to play. This is talking about the FISA court.
215 is overseen by a secret intelligence court known as the FISA court, and they've interpreted it to mean the government could basically collect and store phone records for every American, the vast majority of whom, of course, have no connection to terrorism.
So, we just went, basically, the FISA court is set up to oversee. And I know a lot of people think, well, wait a minute, there's a mechanism, there's a system of checks and balances that's designed so the government can't run amok. And I just continually make the argument, these fellas are on the same team. Isn't their inclination to be, are you overly cooperative with their other agencies? Because later, they might need cooperation from that agency, right? So isn't it kind of good to help them out because you might need to get helped out later? And I think a lot of people don't think about that.
One would think.
Yeah, Nick says you guys should be able to hear the clips if you log into Spreaker, but I think you're going to hear them on delay. But that's up to you guys if you want to try that. That's a good shot, but I guess a delay is not the end of the world. That might be something.
How do I...
Go to Spreaker.com, search box, Annoying Peasant Radio, and then once you do that, this show should be at the top of the list, and you hit play on it. Hit that play button. Now you're going to be dealing with an echo, so I don't know how you're going to get around that. But if you want to abandon that, try it, and if it doesn't work out, just abandon. But give that a shot. That's a good trick, Nick. Thanks.
Let's see how that goes. So I go to Spreaker, then search.
Yeah, that search box in there. Just put Annoying Peasant Radio in there.
There we go.
And then should be like the surveillance state should be the top show on that.
Okay. And now do I hit play on that?
Yeah. And I think, because you're gonna get me twice. You're gonna get me through the headphones, but when we do the clips, obviously you won't get me. So I don't know if I think you can you pause the show? Is there, when you hit play, you might be able to hit pause. So when I'm not doing a clip, you could pause it. Give that a try if you can do it.
Let's see.
Here we go. I'm going to do the next clip about Obama talking about casting a wide net. So here we go. Let's see, 311. This is about 45 seconds. Here we go.
Now, the government will point out that under 215 they hold phone records and not the calls themselves.
What the intelligence community is doing is looking at phone numbers and durations of calls. They are not looking at people's names, and they're not looking at content.
Yes, but that's not entirely reassuring, because you can extrapolate a lot from that information. If they knew that you called your ex 12 times last night between 1 and 4 a.m. for a duration of 15 minutes each time, they can be fairly sure that you left some pretty pathetic voicemails.
So that basically Obama in that clip, I don't know if you guys got it, he's saying, hey, we're just collecting metadata. Nobody has anything to worry about because we're just collecting metadata. And again, Snowden's going to talk more about this here in a little bit. I'll get to that clip, but I would argue it's essentially they've got a gun to my head and they say, "Don't worry, I won't pull the trigger." And I find that obviously very disconcerting. Apparently, most people are just like, "Hey, mellow out. It's no big deal." If you're not engaged in any nefarious activity, you got nothing to hide, right? So don't worry.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that the government has the power to write whatever definition of nefarious they would choose.
Yeah, they can define all these terms any way they want. And again, their pals are in the FISA court, so they can get it where. And we're going to get more in. I think I have that clip. It's something like, yeah, it's actually coming up here. I won't say anything about the court, but here we go. Let's see. I'm at. I got about 40 seconds here. And Snowden talking about the extent of the spying. Here we go.
The public was made aware of what the government's capabilities actually were, because that all ended in June of 2013.
Edward Snowden has just taken responsibility for one of the biggest government leaks in U.S. history.
We learned that the government has the capacity to track virtually every American phone call and to scoop up impossibly vast quantities of data across the internet.
Revelations that the NSA eavesdropped on world leaders.
If you've ever been to the Bahamas, the NSA could have recorded your phone calls and stored them for up to a month.
Yet all that information was exposed by Edward Snowden, and it is still kind of incredible that a 29-year-old contractor was able to steal top-secret documents from an organisation that literally has the word security in its name.
So again, I don't know if you got that, but right, he was making fun of, hey, a young guy was able to steal secret information from an agency that literally has the word secret in its name. I guess security, NSA, National Security Agency, but
yeah, what does that tell you? I mean, if they're entrusted with, ensuring our security and safety, yet they couldn't even keep this, seemingly normal guy, not to say he's not an intelligent guy, I think he's a very intelligent guy, but he was able to smuggle out all this information and get it out to the right people, and now it's out there. I mean, shouldn't that make people kind of skeptical of their abilities to keep us safe?
And he was a relatively low-level guy, right? It's not like he was some super muckety-muck at the NSA.
Yeah, it's not like it was the director or there's a director of the NSA.
Right.
Or I was going to say the czar. I don't even know what the heck they use, but
right.
Yeah, it's not like it was like one of those higher ups. This was a pretty mid-level guy.
Yeah, he was I think he was a contract employee.
Exactly. Yep. And I can't remember the name of the company that he worked for, that he was a contractor of. But yeah, he was considered kind of like a subcontractor.
Yeah. So I find it interesting. And again, the truth about is this metadata. They can get anything they want in the end. And again, that's why I use the analogy. Basically, they're holding a gun to your head and saying, don't worry, we won't collect the data inside. But I think Snowden kind of, he tells the full story there coming up here. Okay, so I got another, 40-second bit coming up. And what are we going to talk about here? Oh, information was disseminated to the New York Times, and they don't even know how to redact information properly. So the point is, sensitive information did actually get out. And again, the point is, information that could have, or maybe did, I have no idea, put people's lives in danger. And again, if you think that Snowden is treasonous, you're really going to think this is a big deal. And of course, if anybody got hurt, it is a big deal. But, if the information was never accumulated, people weren't spied on in the first place, this couldn't have happened. And I think that's part of a stateless society. It's not possible for this to happen, because you say, well, what are you going to have? All better measures with a DRO in a stateless society? I'm like, well, they wouldn't have the capability of doing this, at least not in this way. Long story. But here we go. What am I doing here? 40 seconds. Another cut, again, on the screw up at the New York Times.
It is still unclear exactly how many documents Edward Snowden stole, although he has consistently tried to reassure people that he put them in good hands.
Honestly, I don't want to be the person making the decisions on what should be public and what shouldn't, which is why, rather than publishing these on my own or putting them out openly, I'm running them through journalists.
And that sounds great, but of course it's not a fail-safe plan, as was proven when the New York Times published this slide, but did such a sloppy job of blocking out redacted information that some people were able to read the information behind that black bar, which concerned how the US was monitoring Al-Qaeda in Mosul, a group now known as ISIS. So essentially, a national security secret was leaked because no one at the Times knows how to use Microsoft Paint.
So anyway, he's just ragging on them on the New York Times. And certainly that's a screw-up. But again, I'd argue if this information was never accumulated in the first place, I don't think there'd be nearly as much to worry about. Let's see. Oh, here's a cut here. He's talking about, and some of this, again, he puts a little emphasis. I'm cutting out parts where he really is trying to be humorous, because I think he's missing the meat of the argument. I actually think it's a very important topic, and he's talking about this here, about the importance of it, I think, is coming up here. This is like 20 seconds. Here we go.
So you have to bear that in mind. But here's the thing. It's now 2 years later, and it seems like we've kind of forgotten to have a debate over the content of what Snowden leaked. A recent Pew report found that nearly half of Americans say they're not very concerned or not at all concerned about government surveillance, which is fine if that's an informed opinion. But on
So he says basically half the Americans were polled, and they say they're not very or not at all concerned about government surveillance.
Oof.
That's amazing. And, his last little comment is basically, that's fine if you've had this debate. And I would argue, well, it's not fine even if you've had the debate.
Yeah.
It doesn't give the state the right to violate your property rights, debate or no debate. I mean,
yeah, no, it's gosh, that's just something else. When you hear that half the people out there don't really see a problem with this, I mean, you want to say we're doomed at that point. I mean,
yeah.
How the heck can you really rescue people from that kind of thinking? That's just beyond me.
Right, and it's basically, if you're enslaved and you don't care about being a slave, well, chances you gaining freedom are pretty slim. Right?
Yep.
And the other slaves are basically saying, hey, I can't do this alone. That's the trouble. And when you say, I guess that's maybe a bad analogy, is you can't do it alone. But I guess you would like to band together to some degree and cooperate and break out of slavery together. And you got a whole bunch of people saying, well, I don't really care that we're enslaved in the first place.
Yeah. This ain't so bad,
Right.
They give us 3 square meals.
And why don't we, instead of trying to break out, why don't we just try to make our lives a little more comfortable since we're already here?
Yeah.
Right? It's just a difference in viewpoint from the start. And it's just, that part's very frustrating for me, as I get it is for you too, Nate. So,
yep.
20 seconds. He's basically speaking of the quote-unquote trade-off between privacy and security. So this is about 20 seconds.
Possible. But I don't blame people for being confused. We've been looking at this story for the last 2 weeks, and it is hard to get your head around. Not just because there are so many complicated programs to keep track of, but also because there are no easy answers here. We all naturally want perfect privacy and perfect safety. But those two things cannot coexist.
So that's where he says that perfect privacy and perfect security cannot coexist. That's what he's saying. I think one of the big flaws in that last statement of his is he discounts the fact that the state creates a lot of the problems in the first place.
Absolutely.
Not only within the country through taxation, systematically confiscating wealth, et cetera, all the things that the state does, but even outside the borders, right, with creating adversaries, I guess is maybe a general way of saying it. In other words, they create the problem, then they say, hey, we have to have a solution to this problem. And usually the solution is, so here's the deal, we got to take a little bit more of your cash so we can build up this giant surveillance state so we can know what these bad guys are up to.
Well, and then after that, they're heralded and do a bunch of the self-backslapping on, hey, we created this and by gosh, we fixed it now.
Yeah. And they are careful, though, to say that they don't really want to say we fixed it, because if you fix it,
then you broke it.
Right. Well, you got no reason for your program, and you just lost your budget. Sure. Right. So you usually have to say, well, we've got this under control, but we've identified, if you in fact have, right, but we've identified other areas that we definitely need to close these gaps. So we need a bigger budget. Right. Let's see. Okay, here we go. I think we're getting to the FISA court. Now, this is very interesting. So all the people who say, hey, system of checks and balances, Tom, you don't know what you're talking about. If you call this checks and balances, you're right. I don't know what I'm talking about. So here we go, 20 seconds.
Now, to be fair, the NSA will argue that just because they can do something doesn't mean they do it, and that there are restrictions on their operations, such as the FISA court, which must approve requests for foreign surveillance. But in 34 years, that court has approved over 35,000 applications and only rejected 12.
Okay, so they've approved the FISA court, right? The NSA is saying, hey, just because we can do it doesn't mean we do it. But they've applied to the FISA court for, to do stuff. Over 35,000 times they got approval. They got denied 12. So that's my question. Is this a real court in any sense of the idea? Right? That's the thing. So again, I guess if you say that, if you say, yep, that's real oversight, Tom, you don't know what those 35,000 applications look like. And I'd say, you're right. I actually don't know the content of them.
It does seem a little weighted towards one side,
Yes, that's my thing. By just looking at the metadata here, I can kind of figure out what's going on, which I guess they claim the state can look at your metadata and they'd have no idea what you're doing.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Right? It's just crazy how this goes. And I think that, to me, I'm already good enough. I'm not saying it's a proof, but for me, it's case closed, good enough information already to say there is no checks and balances. Here's a little one. Do you know who? Well, you guys probably now know the author of the Patriot Act. I actually did not know this until I did this. Jim Sensenbrenner from Wisconsin. He was the author of it. And he's commenting here, just again, a short one, 20 seconds, about saying how the language has been misinterpreted to allow the NSA basically to do anything they want. Again, 20 seconds.
So maybe it is time for us to talk about where the limits should be. And the best place to start would be Section 215. Not just because it's the easiest to understand, but because there is widespread agreement it needs to be reformed. From the President to Ted Cruz to both the ACLU and the NRA to even the guy who wrote the thing in the first place.
I was the principal author of the Patriot Act. I can say that without qualification. Congress never did intend to allow bulk collections when it passed Section 215, and no fair reading of the text would allow for this program.
Okay, so he's saying, Sensenbrenner was saying that, Congress didn't have this intent. And I guess I would say here, if he's being accurate there and saying he never intended for these words to be interpreted in this way, well, then he should just be fired, right? I mean, if he wrote it in such a poor way that it could be used against the people of the country, and in a way, he, within his whole words, is saying it was never intended to be used. I mean, what action did he take to curtail it, right? Since he's the author, you think, oh, crap, look at what they're doing. They're interpreting this totally differently than what I intended. Let's write some amendments to this and get this fixed. But
yeah,
again,
one would think, it's kind of tough for me to comment because I wasn't able to hear the clip there. But, my thought or my gut is telling me, well, this is another case of that thing called mission creep, where they take a bill and they pretty much run wild with it, and the program grows by more and more into something that nobody really expected it to become.
Right. And I would argue to some degree, I think that's built into the system. They want to be able to do that because, again, they want to have the freedom to do whatever the heck they want to do.
Yeah.
So then, again, the detractors, I think they would say, hey, there's the system of checks and balances. And they'd say, by the way, there's been no terror crime. And I don't know if you could say there's no, I don't know, was the bombing in Boston? The guy at Fort Hood, I can't think of them all right now, right? The ones that have happened. I guess they would argue the Patriot Act's working, we're all safe. I don't know. Right? The question is, how many attempts, how many things did the NSA foil? How many plots did they foil? Here we go. This is another short one, 20 seconds. I'll update you guys on the other side.
What I wanted. And even the NSA has said that the number of terror plots in the US that the Section 215 telephone records programs has disrupted is 1. And it's worth noting that one particular plot involved a cab driver in San Diego who gave $8,500 to a terror group. And
okay, so he's saying NSA has admitted that the number of plots that the NSA has averted is 1 in the history of the program. And it was some San Diego cab driver who provided $8,500 or something to Al Qaeda's affiliate in Somalia, apparently. You got to excuse me, check the whole clip to get the details on that. But okay, and part of it is, if this was a private agency, if it was a private company doing this, you'd say, okay, wait, how many dollars did we spend? And this is what we got for our money, right? People, when you go to the grocery store and you buy, I don't know, a rotten apple, a lot of people will take that apple back, or they'll never go back to that store, or they'll never buy fruit at that store again, or what, right? They'll take some action.
Yep.
But when it comes to this kind of thing, the NSA, what was it? 50% of the people don't even really have any concern about any of this anyway. And it just freaks me out how people are so nonchalant about this. It's I don't know. It's beyond me. Then I just had a note here that, there was the debate about Section 215 and NSA spy program, the one I alluded to earlier that was interrupted by NBC News for breaking news on Justin Bieber arrest. And his comment there was that, we're not taking this debate very seriously. And I'm saying, well, the news isn't taking it very seriously either, obviously. He's pointing out, and again, I just, my little 2 cents on this was that I think he was having a lot of fun with this and, maybe not taking it seriously enough, I would argue, himself. But I guess it's a little hard coming from a comedian.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, I think that's one of the fine lines that you got to walk as a political satirist, is you're going to have some laughs. You're going to, there's going to be some jokes and whatnot in there. But, by that same measure, you can't... You do still have to treat, some of the subject matter pretty seriously.
Yeah, I'm saying by what he's saying here or how he delivered this message, that 50% number is probably not going to move a whole lot.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I got another 30 seconds here. Basically, Snowden's going to say why he released the information. I guess in his own words, he's saying it for the first time on this show. And he's basically going to wind up saying, hey, this is a threat to a free society. So here we go, 30 seconds.
Let's dive in. Why did you do this?
The NSA has the greatest surveillance capabilities that we've ever seen in history. Now, what they will argue is that they don't use this for nefarious purposes against American citizens. In some ways, that's true. But the real problem is that they're using these capabilities to make us vulnerable to them and then saying, while I have a gun pointed at your head, I'm not going to pull the trigger. Trust me.
So there, he used my analogy, or I used his analogy. While I have a gun pointed at your head, the NSA, while I have a gun pointed at your head, trust me, I'm not going to pull the trigger. And I guess many people have said to me, well, people aren't coerced in this country. I was at a wedding one time, and a guy says to me, ask all these people that are out here dancing, ask them if they're coerced. I bet not one will say they're coerced. And all I said to him is, nonetheless, they're coerced.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, are you saying it's not possible for a slave on a plantation to say, actually, I'm not a slave? Does that actually make him not a slave?
Yeah, try asking the battered wife if she's truly happy in the marriage.
Good one.
Of course, she's going to say, "Yeah, no, I'm very happy. Yep, everyone's happy here. I'm happy. My kids are happy. My husband's happy. Everyone's happy. We're fine."
Right. I just, when people are in those types of positions and they say those words, I'm amazed at how often they're used against me. I'm like, hello, can't you get the context here? Okay, here we're getting to the racy part, and I only have 3 more quick quotes, and then we're going to wrap up the show. We're going to get out of here, so I think people hopefully will get the gist of what's going on. But again, if you got little ones, now it's time, these last 3, to get them out of here. Okay, so the show turned to people basically don't care, and then he was making a joke for a number of minutes before this about, well, what if the NSA had pictures of your private parts? So he called this the dick pic program. Right? And then he was on the street and getting all these people to comment on it, and they were basically, oh no, if they did that, they shouldn't be able to do that. Now that's the end right there, right? And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. That's where your line in the sand is. And I'm okay with it. I mean, everybody can have their line in the sand wherever they want. I'm just saying I don't think mine would be right there. It would have come well before that, I guess, is what I'm getting to. So 30 seconds, and they're basically talking about naked photos and what's going on there. Do they actually have naked photos? Here we go. Snowden speaking again. By the way, I think it was just the last cut. This is when Oliver's actually in Moscow talking to Snowden before he was at his desk. Again, HBO, Brad, I think is right?
Yes.
HBO Studios. So now he's actually there, and there was a little bit of funny stuff because they were like right across from the Russian security agency headquarters or something. And he said they've actually been notified that he was there and he was going to interview Snowden. So he was like, oh, we'll see how this goes. So here we go, about 30 seconds.
Everything you did only matters if we have this conversation properly. So let me help you out there. You mentioned in an interview that the NSA was passing around naked photos of people.
Yeah, this is something where it's not actually seen as a big deal in the culture of NSA because you see naked pictures all of the time.
That terrifies people.
Okay, so he just said, does the NSA have naked pictures of people, or it's rumored? And he says, yeah, and it's not seen as a big deal at the NSA because it happens all the time. So that's why they start joking more about the dick pic program.
Okay.
But yeah, and again, and he says Oliver's last comment on that is, now that terrifies people. and I guess to some degree it does make sense there because it's very personal at that point for people, right?
Yeah.
It's not a big a deal if the house next to me gets burglarized, but if my house gets burglarized, that's like a really big deal. Right?
No, absolutely, you're right, and that's part of the challenge. When we were talking a bit before about that, that 50% number, the 50% of people think it's pretty much a-okay that our government's doing that. You have to get that down to like the personal level, down to the kind of make them understand how it actually impacts them,
right?
Before you're going to really see that number change.
Yes. And that's a great point, Nate. It's and you do this in your discussions with people. I'm sure I try to do it is personalize it to some level, some degree, I should say, because then it feels like you said, it impacts them. Until then, what do I care? It's somebody else's dick pic. Who cares? Okay, so this one here is about a minute, and they're just going to establish here. Snowden's going to establish that since his information has come forward, and again, all his information is not out. What percentages, I don't know. They didn't comment on that, but I assume there's still more that can come out and maybe will. But he's saying since this flap has happened, the NSA is still collecting private information on every single one of us, and he's going to go through how it happens. In other words, you say, well, if I had a dick pic and I sent it, emailed it to my wife in San Diego, well, they couldn't get that because, the NSA is supposed to be spying on the outside of the borders. But he's saying, well, of course, that picture could wind up going through the various servers. It could get through England, say, and come back, and then they could capture it that way. And he's going to talk about a number of other ways so when people think they're safe from this or they're not subject to the spying, they are. Again, this is about a minute. Here we go.
Well, the good news is there's no program named the dick pic program. The bad news is they are still collecting everybody's information, including your dick pics.
What's the over-under on that last guy having sent a dick pic recently? You don't need to guess. I'll show you.
I did take a picture of my dick, and I sent it to him.
All right, I think I got a little off there, or I went too long. I can't remember. But yeah, so they're still collecting information, and this last one is he's going to talk about all the various programs within the NSA here, and it's going to run for a little bit. I think this is must be 3 minutes, and you say, well, that's a long clip. Well, I want to do a long clip because you're going to go through a whole bunch of programs. It's just unbelievable how much there is to it. And I'm sure this isn't all of it, just the ones Snowden's are talking about. So here we go. He's going to describe the different programs and how they can net information out of all of them. Here we go.
Each NSA program, and explain to me its capabilities in regards to that photograph of my penis. So, 702 surveillance. Can they see my dick?
Yes. The FISA Amendments Act of 2008, which Section 702 falls under, allows the bulk collection of internet communications that are one-end foreign.
Bulk collection, now we're talking about my dick. You get it.
It's not what I expected.
You get it, though, right?
I do.
Right, because anyway.
So if you have your email somewhere like Gmail, hosted on a server overseas or transferred overseas or at any time crosses outside the borders of the United States, your junk ends up in the database.
So it doesn't have to be sending your dick to a German?
No. Even if you send it to somebody within the United States, your wholly domestic communication between you and your wife can go from New York to London and back and get caught up in the database.
Executive Order 12333, dick or no dick?
Yes. EO 12333 is what the NSA uses when the other authorities aren't aggressive enough or they're not catching as much as they'd like. For example...
Okay, so how are they going to see my dick? I'm only concerned about my penis.
When you send your junk through Gmail, for example, that's stored on Google's servers. Google moves data from data center to data center, invisibly to you without your knowledge. Your data could be moved outside the borders of the United States temporarily. When your junk was passed by Gmail, the NSA caught a copy of that.
Prism.
Prism is how they pull your junk out of Google with Google's involvement. All of the different Prism partners, people like Yahoo, Facebook, Google, the government deputizes them to be sort of their little surveillance sheriff.
They're a dick sheriff.
Correct.
Upstream.
Upstream is how they snatch your junk as it transits the internet.
Okay, Mystic.
If you're describing your junk on the phone, yes.
But do they have the content of that junk call or just the duration of it?
They have the content as well, but only for a few countries. If you are on vacation in the Bahamas, yes.
And finally, and you need to remind yourself...
No, I'm just not sure what to do with this. It's a lot of...
Just hold on to it.
It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, it is a lot of responsibility. That's the whole point.
Should I?
No, you should absolutely not. And it's unbelievable that you would do that. Actually, it's entirely believable. 215 metadata.
No.
Good.
But
come on, Ed.
They can probably tell who you're sharing your junk pictures with because they're seeing who you're texting with, who you're calling.
If you called a penis enlargement center at 3 in the morning and that call lasted 90 minutes?
They would have a record of your phone number calling that phone number, which is a penis enlargement center. They would say they don't know it's a penis enlargement center, but of course they can look it up.
Edward, if the American people understood this, they would be absolutely horrified.
I guess I never thought about putting it in the context of your junk.
So anyway, that's the last cut I have from this. But, you know, as Oliver says, they're talking about how these pictures or anything that you send can be intercepted because likely it's going to go internationally. And he named a number of programs, a number of ways to do it, metadata collection, blah, blah, blah. But Oliver ended by saying, you know, people would basically be flipped out if they knew this. And I guess, you know, a big part of it is people don't pay attention. They don't even know about this. And the few that, and I would argue, you know, the 50% don't really care. Well, I think they don't know enough to care. So, you know, that's part of the problem. They don't pay attention, so they don't get alarmed by what they don't know. So, anyway, if you have interest, I realize I probably played too many cuts from that. I chopped it up too much. Which I guess when you play a bunch of cuts, it kind of thing. I just tried to get to the meaty parts, but maybe we should have probably just talked more. And again, I apologize for this group that you guys can't hear that. Certainly would have helped. I don't know.
Send me a case of beer and we'll call it good.
We'll call it good. All right, that's all it takes. Sweet. I'm used to dealing with my
bought off.
Yeah, I'm used to dealing with my wife, and it costs a whole lot more than a case of beer. So you're good. I'm going to forego this, but let me just say, the next thing I wanted to go to was drones. We're not going to do that tonight. We're going to end the show pretty much here, but there's this gal by the name of Marjorie Cohn. I don't know how many people know her. I learned about her just earlier this week. Interesting gal. She's really done a lot of work on drones. She's an anti-war, I don't know if activist is the right word, but she's really got her act together. Very interesting. We probably do a whole show on her book and a presentation, basically her ideas. And I know one of the statistics I think that she presented in this talk that I had here at YouTube is, I think Obama killed more people by drone strike in his first year, which was before he accepted the Nobel Peace Prize, than what Bush killed using drones in his 2 terms. So
wow.
I think, you know, the people see Obama as I don't know, maybe a liberal Democrat, at least a Democrat, obviously. And, you know, Democrats are usually not as big of warmongers, or they're not seen as being such warmongers versus the Republicans. I think that's an interesting statistic for people to ponder. That, again, the first year of his presidency, of his first term, just before he got the Nobel Peace Prize, he killed more people by drone strikes than Bush did in both of his terms. So I think that sheds some light on what's going on. And I think it goes back to what Nate said earlier, that, you know, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. You've got to embrace the system to be in charge of the system. Mm-hmm. So you get there. And, you know, Obama was a giant critic, I think, of everything, including Bush breathing, right? And here he is, not only continuing a lot of the programs, accentuating or accelerating or making them bigger, embellishing those programs. And I would argue it's not uncommon. I'm not just putting this on Obama. I'm just saying, all right, well, let's sit here. Next year is going to be the next election, and we could just change the names. But I think we can have the same conversation. So I guess that's my point on that. Anything else? I guess maybe I'll do my conclusions that I'd written down, and if we want to chat about them for a little bit, so we can get this wrapped up. You know, here I'll just, in broad terms, the political philosophy of freedom leads more likely to a peaceful society than that of statism, right? You don't have that giant gun. It's less likely that it would be used or used as a threat to someone else. The assertion that the state is causing many of the conflicts in the world is legitimate. Again, you didn't get to hear the clips from Marjorie Cohn that we'll do again at a later time, but she made a great case there. Something that Oliver pointed out, people aren't paying attention. I'm going to say pay attention to the surveillance state. And I know a lot of people have been exposed to it. They go through these TSA lines. They just kind of go through it as cattle, and I guess they don't make a big deal about it. And the bottom line is you are being spied on. Deny it or not, it's happening to you. And this fallacy that, the state claims you have to be watched in order to keep you free. Doesn't it? I hope that troubles people in their head. And if you think the current system is, in fact, unjust, I just encourage you to think, read, learn, and discuss with your friends and adversaries. I don't care, the same things that we talk about tonight and more, of course. Hopefully we're trying to just get the discussion started and get you on your journey to think about these things. So, I don't know, is there something I missed there, Nate? Something I missed there, Brad, that I should have included? Is there a wrap-up point that would have been better than the ones I listed?
No, I think you touched on it very well. I think it's obviously a pretty big subject to really try and tackle and get into here, even in the amount of time that we had. And I think, getting into, some of the work that Marjorie Cohn has done, I think that'll be very interesting to hear about.
Yeah. It's just so interesting to see someone or hear her. And I of course, I don't know her all that well. I just listened to that presentation. I've listened a little bit of other stuff from her, but not enough to be able to tell you that, hey, I really know where she's come from. But she seems to me to be basically a giant statist, which just kind of freaks me out that how, I guess I would frame it and say, how is she missing the big picture? But she's got this part, which is a fair chunk of the big picture, but she's got it down so well. It just kind of, I don't know how people do that, but they do. So anyways, with that, we've been going on a little long here, 90 minutes plus. So I want to get out of here. But as I usually say at the end of every show, please tell your friends, heck, even tell your enemies about the show. We don't care. We just like to grow the show as best we can and get the message out. That's the idea. The next episode is, again, be next Tuesday. Our next live episode, I should say, will be next Tuesday. I hope Brad's going to like this one, Free Market Environmentalism, and be at our regular time. And I know that one touches home to nearer home to Brad, so this is good. But largely, I'll post this week on Facebook, but Walter Block spoke about it, and of course, he's fantastic. So I encourage you to check that out. Keep watching the Facebook page. Tanya and Cassie and Tim, and once in a while I can post stuff on there. They post some awesome stuff on there. So if you guys are listening, we appreciate you doing that. We hope we made you think or provoked you a little bit. Again, add your contribution onto the Facebook page, and thanks for listening. And we look forward to our next discussion. Anything you guys have to say before I run out?
Bravo, great. Great thanks to Nate. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Okay. I appreciate your contribution, and certainly you too, Brad. And hopefully we can do this again next week.
Awesome. Looking forward to it.
Okay. And I'm stalling right now because I'm trying to come up with my iTunes music here. But all right, I'll do Warren's thing again just so we do that for Warren in case he's listening now. So with that, good night, everybody. We'll chat with you next Tuesday. Here we go.
Don't hang on to outdated imperialist dogma. Be free for the next episode of the Annoying Peasant Radio Show. And now, the Annoying Peasants.
That's not the way to do the outro, right?
Oh, well.
Yeah, it was tough for me to hear, so...
Oh.
I couldn't hear it, so...
I basically played the intro as the outro there. Here we go. I'm going to get us off the air, I think.